And welcome back. My name is Beverly Popak, and this is the Fair Chance Ordinance Employer Toolkit video number 3. After the background report, you're going to learn all about the individualized assessment and reassessment process. Before we get started, let's go through how you can get the most out of this video. First, have you watched the FCO overview video? The FCO is a very detailed process, and process is the key word here, and it can be very, very overwhelming. So watch the overview video first. After, you can watch the FCO Employer Toolkit video series, and this is a series, so please watch them in order. They're going to make the most amount of sense. In addition to watching the videos, you should print out the companion presentation slides so that you can take notes. And at the very, very bottom here, we have a link to our employer toolkit. Please print out the toolkit because we will refer to pieces and documents in the toolkit so that you can understand this process and create a compliant process of your own. Today's video will focus in on the highlighted section in yellow here, where you have conducted a background check after a conditional job offer is made. The background check report has come back, and you must conduct an individualized assessment. Once that's done, you can either hire, and it also says here hire or promote. This process is not only for new hires, but it's also for current employees that you are performing background checks for. If you have decided that you would like to revoke the job offer, you must create a preliminary notice to revoke the job offer. We'll go through all of the bare minimums and requirements of what that looks like. And within there, you are going to have to allow at least 7 days for the applicant, the prospective person, to perhaps provide information to clarify any questions or concerns you have. If that person sends information, you will have to conduct a reassessment. And at that point in time, of course, you can always hire, or you can move forward with a final revocation of the job offer. This is the sample criminal history individual assessment form that we provide to you in our employer toolkit. Make this your own, but understand this is the bare minimum of what you should have for the assessment form. It's pretty self-explanatory and simple, but super important information, as if we had any questions or there were a complaint, this is what the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement would be looking for as bare minimum information to understand if you, the employer, followed and had a compliant process. I'm going to go through different parts of this form in detail after this. So I'm not going to read through everything, but what I would point out here on this particular slide is at the very bottom, it lists that under the San Francisco Fair Chance Ordinance, the following background information may not be considered at any time. This is super important for the person performing the assessment to remember that any of this information should never be considered at any time. This is the second part to the assessment form where you'll fill out more information. But number 3 is really the heart of what this is. You are conducting an individualized assessment to understand and see if any of the background report items and actions are directly related to the applicant's ability to perform the job. If there is something that's directly related, number 3 would be the place that you would really spell it out, write it out, add more information, etc., etc. At the very bottom, ultimately, you are going to have to make some sort of a decision. If it is going to be rescinding the employment, you have to be clear on what your decision is based on. This is a great way of summarizing everything above. Now, let's get into the details of different parts of the notice here. So number one, list the specific duties and responsibility of the job. You should include all of the information you've posted online, you've shared with the applicant verbally or in writing. And in writing, it can be email or text messages. So review the information about the job and the responsibilities before you perform the individualized assessment. Focus in on what these items are. Next, you need to describe the criminal convictions and unresolved arrests. And the question is, why are they a concern? This particular slide has a definition of an unresolved arrest that you can use for your records and if you need to define it later on. So please save this for your assessment. Number three, this is really the heart of the whole assessment here. Are the actions directly related to the applicant's ability to perform the job? You need to think about that. And this is the only reason that is allowed for you to rescind your job offer if you see that there are actions directly related to the applicant's ability to perform the job. These items here, number 4 and number 5, are things that you should note and consider in your assessment. And number 6, what are the demonstrations of growth and evidence? So for example, did the applicant or person have any education and job training? Have they completed a rehabilitation program? And you should also think about yourself as an employer. What does the job offer as in support? Could it be supervision? If this person is going to be supervised, you should consider that the person is going to be supervised. Will there be training? What type of work environment? Um, these are items that you should consider that's internal before you produce the final individualized assessment. Now, ultimately, when you get to the end of the individualized assessment, what is the outcome of the analysis of the background report and the individualized assessment? If you don't have any issues, yeah, you could just hire the person. But if you do have issues, and remember the issues that you're having is that the actions you have seen on the background report are directly related to the position at hand, then you can continue to the next step, which is the next step your firm has chosen to revoke the job offer. This is the sample employer notice of preliminary decision to revoke the job offer. This is in the toolkit. This is the bare minimum of what we recommend you have when you create your own notice. And this is some super important information so that it tells the applicant that after you reviewed the background report, you have made a non-final preliminary decision to take back the previous job offer because of the following. And this is where you're going to be super specific, and you should always think about what is directly related to the position that the person got a conditional offer of employment for. Attached to this preliminary decision to revoke the job offer, you need to have some other items such as a copy of the background report. Now you're thinking that the background report company that you hired offers a copy and things like that, but you must attach a copy of the background report with this notice. And lastly, you need to attach the San Francisco Fair Chance Ordinance notice so that the applicant knows their rights. At the very bottom of the slide, it's super important for you to have this information that it states that the applicant has a right to respond and that they may respond to this letter before your decision to revoke the job offer becomes final. And they need to do this response within 7 days from when they first received the notice. Now, moving on to the second part of this notice, you give them information that you can send, the applicant can send evidence of rehabilitation or mitigating circumstances, or perhaps information challenging the accuracy of the conviction history listed. You need to tell the applicant specific information of who should they send this information to. Put it, put the name, the mailing address, email address, phone number if there's any clarification that's needed. Perhaps the applicant needs more time. They might need to call. So this is excellent and important standard information at bare minimum that's required as part of this notice. At the very bottom, this is an illustrative list or examples of information that the applicant can send you. It's not an exhaustive list, but it gives you, as well as an applicant, the idea and thought of what is this process all about? You're telling the applicant that there is a concern and it's directly related to the past that you've seen and the future here, which is the position that this person was hired for and conditionally hired for. So you're bringing this up now before you make a final decision, and you're asking that applicant, well, gee, is there something else you can tell me because I have concerns or a concern? And here are examples of things that the applicant can send. Now, as mentioned before, the package contains three key pieces: the notice of preliminary decision to revoke the job offer, the fair chance ordinance notice, and a copy of the background report. The best practice that we recommend is that you send this package in a method where you can verify that the notice has been received by the applicant. So, for example, certified mail, or perhaps you have an email program or portal where you can record the date and time that the applicant has received the package. And this is super important because this is a process law, meaning if there were any questions, it's about the employer, you following the process in a compliant fashion. And we are noting, and this is a note of time stamping of when the applicant received the package and perhaps when are the next steps that occurred. Did you allow at least 7 business days? That is the question, and we can only know the answer to that if we clearly understand when the applicant received the package. The burden of proof, this information is on you, the employer. So don't take this lightly and don't rush it. Make sure that the applicant has received the package and that you have proof that they have done so. Because if you decide to do a final revocation of the job offer and the applicant never received this preliminary decision, that's a potential violation of the Fair Chance Ordinance. Now, moving on, your notice of preliminary decision should include things such as when you're sending this and what you plan to do. Be super clear about it and super clear on what the issues on the background report are that led you to this decision. And they have to be the directly related items. Number two, this is about providing at least 7 business days from the date of receipt for the applicant to respond with evidence. Perhaps there's inaccuracies or things like that. The business days are defined as the days of Monday through Friday. It does not include holidays. And if it happens that there is a holiday, the holidays are defined by the city and county of San Francisco. So refer to the city and county of San Francisco's legal holiday calendar. You can Google it, or you can go directly to a holiday schedule using the link that's at the very bottom here. Next, we've talked about this before, but be super clear on how the applicant must submit the response. Is it by mail? Is it by email? Perhaps it's in person. And number four, include the individualized assessment findings to clarify the thought process in making the decision to preliminarily revoke the job offer and allow for response. If you're super focused on the directly related aspects of what you have found of concern and why, the applicant is going to be able to respond in a much more clear and focused fashion. So this section, I'd like to go through examples of clarification documentation that you may receive in response of the notice of preliminary decision to revoke the job offer and what you should keep in mind and consider. I'm going to go through this rather quickly because what I'd like you to do is you're going to save this PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully you printed it out. And when you're at this stage, if you get to this stage, you can keep these items and examples in mind. So one of the things that may happen after you send that preliminary decision to revoke the job offer is that there might be examples of inaccuracy. So these are some things to keep in mind about the background report and factual or inaccuracy questions. So number one, is the background report for the correct person? Sometimes the names of people are close enough where wrong information is placed onto um, a person's report. This may happen. Also, when you receive information or evidence of rehabilitation or mitigating circumstances, this particular slide helps you think about any facts or circumstances that maybe you should consider as part of the process. This is another slide having you understand more evidence of rehabilitation mitigating circumstances, such as maybe there's community involvement. You should consider that someone has also been involved with volunteer activities before or after the convictions, or maybe the length and consistency of employment and their history of employment. And number four, I think is always super important, character references, reference letters. You should look at these evidence and examples of rehabilitation or mitigating circumstances. Other items that you should or think about and look for, did they attend school? Did they attend a job training program? Have they attended counseling? Any evidence that they have performed the same type of work since the conviction or unresolved arrest. And seven, perhaps the applicant is in a bonded program. And the bonded programs secure jobs for hard to place individuals where they issue bonds to cover a specific number of months at no cost to you and the job applicant. And then here's number eight, where there's some more information for you to consider in evidence and rehabilitation. For example, maybe they have participated in rehabilitation, such as anger management, alcohol. Maybe there's evidence that they completed parole. Now, when you receive the information, review the documentation that's in response to the preliminary decision to revoke the job offer. And you need to conduct an individualized reassessment. So you use the same sample individualized assessment form to conduct a reassessment. And again, this particular form is found in the Employer Toolkit. This is what the form looks like. It's super familiar. We went through this just a few minutes ago. But what I would do is certainly make sure that the date of assessment is accurate, because if you're keeping all of these documents and forms, which you should be doing, your date will show that this is the second assessment. You can even cross out assessment. You could put reassessment, make this form your own. And again, this is the bare minimum information that should be on your forms. Now, this is the reassessment. So you've already identified the actions that you have found of concern on the background report, which are directly related to the position in question. So now the applicant has provided you some information for you to consider. This is what you should think about. Number one, did they respond within the 7 business days of receiving the notice? Number two, does the applicant need additional days to provide a response? So, for example, the applicant has responded in a timely fashion, but their response says something like, the background report is wrong, it's inaccurate, there was a mistake, I'm trying to get a corrected copy of the report, but I don't have it available right now. It's actually going to be available next week, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If that is the type of response you're receiving, then it tells me that you need to give the applicant some more time to provide evidence or a copy of the corrected background report that they are referring to, because that could perhaps change something. Um, or they've asked for a recommendation letter, but the person that said they're going to do the recommendation letter was unable to get it together within, the 5 days, 7 days, etc. They need more time. So please be generous. These items can potentially change your mind and thought process about perhaps rescinding the job offer. Here's something else to consider. Was there an error made in the background report? And what is the evidence of rehabilitation and good conduct? Ultimately, we get to the part after you review all of the information that the applicant has given you. Have they responded? Do you still have concerns? Has it answered your concern in one way or another? I mean, will you hire the applicant? If yes, hire the applicant. If no, then you must send your final decision to revoke the job offer. That's that concludes our video regarding the individualized assessment and reassessment process. Please continue on to the video number 4, where you'll learn about the notice of final determination to revoke the job offer. This is the San Francisco um, Fair Chance Ordinance Unit's contact information. Please feel free to contact us by phone, email. This lists our website, our FCO website, so you can go directly, or if you like to go to the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement's webpage, it is listed here. Thanks for joining me here. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.